Hey guys, I'm Jackson Cobalt, and welcome to me ranking every single roguelike that I've ever put in more than an hour into. I will be ranking these on a tier list, obviously. They will be ranked from uh, on a few factors. I'm just gonna let that clear, okay? It's gonna be ranked on my personal enjoyment, how well I think the game is put together, how replayable the roguelike is, whether or not the roguelike has a well-balanced difficulty curve, and whether or not the game is in fact a roguelike, which is why I have the not a roguelike tier. I have taken these from Steam user tags roguelike and roguelite, applying them to my library, and I'm just going to run through it. And you will also be able to see my playtimes, maybe, if it shows up in the video. I'll say them. So first off, we have FTL. I have 99.1 hours on FTL, which isn't counting any time that I played the game in offline mode, which I have done when I didn't have internet. So FTL is probably my most played roguelike on Steam. Having said that, it's definitely an S tier. It is one of the best roguelikes for just how you play the game. It's so much fun. It is unique. It is thrilling. It makes you make a lot of decisions really quickly, especially when you start getting into higher difficulties. There's so many ships. Every ship adds a new challenge, and so many of them are so fun to play. It's a reason why it has so much playtime. I mean, that and some of the achievements are just really difficult to get, and I've been achievement grinding, and it's been really fun. Wildermyth is, unfortunately, not a roguelike. It does have a roguelike mode in the DLC. I have not played that. However, even before Wildermyth has had that DLC, it was still tagged as a roguelike, and I don't understand that. Um, like, there are definitely roguelike elements, but I do not consider it a roguelike. Hades. Hades is a very, very good roguelike. I have 94.7 hours into it. It is probably the best execution of a roguelike with a continuous story. And it is just a really well done thing. The difficulty system in the game is really fun. The heat system, I think, should be copied by basically every roguelike ever, and I believe it's better than the Ascension system. However, the Ascension system is still very useful for specific cases. Additionally, Hades is an action roguelike, rather than a strategy roguelike. I will be categorizing them in two separate things. However, the action part of Hades is very, very fun, fast paced. It does get a bit stale, especially when a lot of the time the optimal strategy for basically well, not every weapon, but most of the weapons is um, mashing the basic attack button and the dash button, alternating them so that you're just constantly using your dash attack. It's just really good for a lot of them, and that can be a bit stale. But there's a lot that you can do outside of that. There are instances where that's not the best thing, and you'll learn. Hades has a very interesting learning curve. I find that when I started playing Hades, it was really, really easy. And I also do like how the roguelite progression system is actually taken away when you're at higher heat, which I actually really, really enjoy because it takes away the crutches that you might have been using. And it's one of the very few times where I feel like limiting the player is better than pushing the player. And in fact, it's almost a limitation that does push the player. And I do enjoy that. Next, we have Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is another A tier classic. Um, I have 67.9 hours. But I have played this game probably about 10 hours in offline mode. So it's probably actually 77.9. Um and it's A tier. I think it's below Hades. And the reason why I say it's below Hades is that Slay the Spire, it feels very luck-based. Now, I'm not saying that it is luck-based. It feels that way. And it is a deck builder, and deck builders can always tend to feel a bit luck-based. And of course, it's a roguelike. Roguelikes are luck-based. But I feel like Slay the Spire has some unfortunate issues in just how it happens. Like, it's really well put together. I don't think it's the best deck building roguelike. I definitely don't believe that. It's not the deck. It was the first deck builder I played. I put like 20 hours into it before I won a run because I never played deck builder before. And as a first-time deck builder, it is very good at teaching you the mechanics. However, it doesn't teach you how to win a deck builder. It is a deck builder that does not teach you how to win. And that is something that I will be holding against it. A lot of people, not just me, have complained that the game doesn't teach you how to win. You can play the game for as long as you want, but it doesn't teach you how to win, and you kind of need to use outside resources. So I'm putting it in A tier, and there are 2 S tier deck building roguelikes, I'm pretty sure, on this list. And Slay the Spire is not one of them. Slay the Spire has invented the Ascension system, as far as I'm aware, and the Ascension system is very, very good and well done in it. I just think there are too many roguelikes, especially deck builders, feel like they need to have the Ascension system from Slay the Spire when they just really don't, and they don't understand it. In fact, like, I think the Ascension system might be a little too, like, awkward in Slay the Spire already. And the heart, the heart as the secret final boss is just a load of BS, in my opinion. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but it is a load of BS. Which is another point against it. We have Vampire Survivors. Alright, Vampire Survivors is a C tier roguelike. It is a turn your brain off roguelike in all of the worst ways. And having said that, it's also just really fun. I have 60.8 hours in it, and it is definitely, it was the first game that I've played and I started listening to the Distractable podcast with, and I do enjoy that. Like, I did enjoy doing that. I have so many hours in it, and wait, this would be a B tier roguelike if it didn't stop adding achievements. I 100% complete this game and then updated itself, but like this was, and then I 100% completed it, then it updated itself, then I 100% completed it. Then the full version released, okay? I was like, okay, fine, the full version came out, I'm gonna 100% complete it. And then they added DLC, and every DLC they add adds like 20 new achievements. I 100% completed the first DLC, okay? And then I'm just like, and then before I 100% completed that DLC, there was more DLC with more achievements, and I'm just like, I cannot deal with it. I just really want this game to have 100% completion on my profile, and there's a lot of time where it had that, and now is not one of those times. It's frustrating. Okay. Dead Cells. Dead Cells is one of my favorite action roguelikes. It is probably... Oh, is it my favorite action roguelike? It is probably it has some of my most well-designed bosses. I love the synergy aspects of the game, despite the fact that it's not a synergy roguelike. It still manages to have synergies that feel really clever to pull off because the game's not built around them. And the boss cell system is very interesting. Every level of boss cells is very drastically different. And I usually critique Ascension systems that are drastically different, but I feel like this one works because it takes away your crutches without making anything else more difficult. Now, I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I've only gotten to boss cell 2. But and I've never been able to defeat Dracula, but I have done all of the other routes. I have the DLC. I think it is an S tier. It is a low S tier though. Um, Not saying that it's not a bad game. It is a fantastic game. I have 59.7 hours into it. It's actually one of the most replayable roguelikes that I've played because but it's also one of the hardest to get back into. I tried getting back into this after not playing it for 2 years and I couldn't. And so I restarted a new save file. And it was so much fun to replay through the game. It is one of the most replayable roguelikes from a fresh save file. So it has to be an S tier. Monster Train, easy S tier. Probably one of my favorite roguelikes. It is a deck building roguelike. I have 55 hours into it. There's just so much good ideas here. I love all 5 factions, 6 with DLC, and combining them where you get 2 factions and you get to combine them, and they all have pieces that synergize with any other faction just in case you needed it. Like, that's insane. You use every faction combination and you get points for using the different faction combinations, and some of them are just really, really fun. The Umbral faction is one of my favorite factions, and along in like any in any deck building roguelike, it is one of my favorite sets. And then you have the candle people. I can't remember their name right now, but they are easily my second favorite faction, and I love all of the factions in Monster Train. That is one of the things. It is a deck building roguelike where all of the factions are both fun to play, well designed, and I personally enjoy playing them. All right, now we got Dicey Dungeons. Dicey Dungeons, very fun. I like it. I like the all 32 acts. And yeah, Dicey Dungeon, like, one of the best parts about Dicey Dungeon is that rather than having any kind of difficulty increase, every single episode plays pretty differently from the other ones, and the characters are all fun to play. I love the mechanics. It isn't as randomized, which means that you can kind of feel like you know what to expect. And once you learn how to play every character, then the game puts you into the bonus episode, and then the hard mode of the bonus episode, where you really have to, is really just, can you master it? And some of the bonus episode hard modes are just really ridiculously difficult. I really enjoy Dicey Dungeon, but I don't think it's the most well-built roguelike I've played. It's 46.5 hours. Lost Castle. Lost Castle is a roguelike I put 39.9 hours into. I enjoy it. I do very much enjoy it. There are some definite issues in like in how it works, but it's one of the best roguelikes for cooperative play in my experience. I'm putting it in C tier. Its co-op mode's really fun and really well built. Almost feels like it's a co-op game, and I love that, and I love how the boss system works. I love that you get to choose your route through the game. And there's a boss in each area, and then the final boss, there's multiple different levels of final boss based on how many times you beat the game. And it is just very, very fun to explore. I love the potion system and how depending on and how every potion has a potion color and shape, and what every potion within a color set gets a different shape every single run. And so when you pick up a potion, you know what whether or not, like, what set it could possibly be, because let's say if it was a green potion, there's I think a few options for it, but the shape you don't know until you've tried it, and then you've tried that potion for the shape for that run. The game also runs into an issue where a lot of the time the meta progression element is actively hurting the game, because by the end of the game it feels like the enemies are so strong that it expects you to have a very high meta progression level, which just I don't think like that's well made. But that's just an issue with meta progressions, and it is a fun meta progression system that does more than a lot of them I've seen. Now we have Loop Hero. Loop Hero, pretty fun. I think it doesn't have enough content in my opinion. There's 38.4 hours into it. And it definitely seems like there were definitely plans at some point to add more classes, especially since that there are item slots that don't get used by any of the classes. But unfortunately, those updates never came out as far as I'm aware. Like, the game's been out for a pretty long time now. I think it's like 7 years or something. And the game hasn't been updated since the full release version. And the full release version is very fun. It just runs out of content pretty quickly. We get Peglin. I did really like Peglin, and at some point, I just didn't like the direction the updates were going. D tier. I don't think I like how they implemented the shop mechanic. I don't think I like the boss system. I think some of the bosses, a couple of the bosses just don't really work. And I don't like the character system. It is definitely a roguelike with a lot of bloat. There's so many different orbs that almost don't matter to, like, realistically. It's very difficult to get a consistent setup, and the character system is weird. I don't very much like it, and I don't think if I made this thing when Peglin was still very early on in its early access development, it would probably be up to B tier, but I don't think the direction it's taken is very healthy for the game. Darkest Dungeon is not a roguelike. Mayhem. Mayhem is a very, very fun game. A tier. It is a game where it's a game with a lot of different strategy components. It has a ton of characters. All of them play very differently from each other. All of them are pretty fun. Everyone will have a favorite character that is different for each individual person. My favorite character in Mayhem is the Filthy Priest. And the game has a lot of very fun events. It's very fun to learn how to do things. It's very fun collectible. The only issue with the game is that the Ascension system isn't a set defined system. The Ascension levels are plugged into an algorithm, which allows infinite Ascension levels. However, there isn't a noticeable difference between any of the Ascension levels. Like, you might feel, oh, this is slightly harder on Ascension 1 than Ascension... Like, it's slightly harder on Ascension 5 than Ascension 1, but because there isn't any actual tangible changes other than algorithmic changes in how strong the enemies are, that's the only thing holding it back from S tier. Nova Drift, high B tier. Very interesting game, got a lot of synergies. I love the different ways that the game plays. I love the unique aspect of being in space, and I actually kind of do enjoy the tank controls of the game because of just how well it works and how well it's smooth, and just how well the game lets you build your ship and increase it. All of those are fantastic. Realm of the Mad God. It is, in fact, a roguelike. I was almost about to put it in not a roguelike tier. But it is a roguelike. It is a roguelike MMO, and I probably have 100 hours in it not on Steam, plus the 33.8 hours on Steam. And it is a very, very fun game that is... It's definitely pay to win, but there is a lot of skill involved. It is a low C tier. I feel like I would have a lot more fun with this game if I had friends to play it with and do partying and do the level 20 dungeon, like the level 20 content that there is, but I haven't really done any of that. It's also it's pretty punishing as a roguelike. The main draw of the game is you level up to level 20, and then at level 20 you do all of you do like raid bosses and dungeons and stuff. And if you die, then you lose everything you're carrying, and you have to restart at level 1, and you can make a new character. SNKRX. SNKRX is a very, very fun roguelike that got abandoned by its developer, which has saddened me so much because it was really, really fun. It is a high C tier, and I really wish that it got continued because it is really fun. I do very much enjoy playing SNKRX. Wizard of Legend. Wizard of Legend is a masterclass in just how to do an action roguelike. It's combo heavy. It's there isn't really an easy way to do it's very combo heavy. There's not a lot of combo breaks. You have to be playing patient. You have to be stun locking the enemies. You have to be making sure you don't get hit into attacks, because oftentimes the enemies combo you. Which can be punishing, but also very rewarding once you find the tools. Every single one of the hundreds of magic spells is useful at some point. A lot of them are very, very good, and I really like playing this game. I have 31.5 hours into it. I've beaten it like 4 or 5. I've beaten the final boss like 4, 5, 6 times, and the final boss is one of the best bosses in an action roguelike that I've ever seen. However, it doesn't have like the synergy aspect that that I kind of would like it to have, because in my personal play, it gets a low A. It gets a low A. Inscryption. Inscryption is a roguelike. Well, there's a roguelike mode, and the roguelike mode is really good. The main game is not a roguelike, but the roguelike mode is a very good it's decent roguelike. It still has all of the issues of the main game's roguelike mode, where you can just absolutely obliterate anything if you know what you're doing, which means that lacks any difficulty. So there. Gungeon Souls, very unheard of action roguelike, with a lot of different classes. It is like it feels very old school, and I do very much like playing Gungeon Souls. I have 10 hours into it on Steam, on this Steam account, but I think I've played it on another Steam account, at least somewhat. It's very fun. I don't know if I've only played 10 hours into it, but it is very, very fun, and I do really like how the game plays. But it has some major issues, like how the difficulty system works. Endless mode isn't very fun, and there's a few classes that feel very safe. A lot of the classes feel very samey. Not every class, but a lot of them. Bad North. I guess Bad North kind of fits the definition of a roguelike. Cult Simulator is not a roguelike. I don't care. Shogun Showdown. I enjoy Shogun Showdown. What really trips me up in Shogun Showdown is that I I don't go slow enough. I move too fast and I don't realize what's happening. That's a personal issue. I think it's a very fun game. I think it doesn't fit my playstyle, but it definitely deserves to be high B or low A tier. Probably high B. Balatro. God, I hate Balatro so much. I have 30 hours in Balatro. I have done Gold State. There are Balatro videos on this channel. I despise playing Balatro. Balatro is a game that I thought I would enjoy. I really, truly thought I would enjoy it. And I did, at some point, enjoy the concept of it. The execution is absolutely abysmal. It is the world's worst deck-building roguelike. And you want to know something? Every defender of Balatro I've encountered, the true defenders of it, who argue and stuff, They say it's not a deck building roguelike, and that's not a good defense because it's listed as a deck building roguelike. It implies itself to be a deck building roguelike because a lot of the gameplay is about building your deck and changing it. But that's not what it is. It is a synergy roguelike where act of actually getting your synergy to work is under multiple layers of RNG. And overall, the game is just woefully unbalanced. The stake system, which is their ascension system, is one of the worst ascension systems I've ever seen. Each ascension is not an equal difficulty above the previous one. A lot of the time, it is about limiting the player rather than pushing the player to make interesting decisions. It limits the player on what they can and can't do, and it's just very annoying to play. Balatro's early, the first two ranks, like the first two acts or whatever they're called, the first quarter of the game of every run is way more difficult than the back 75% of the run, and that's just not good game design. I want to be able to do something, even when I'm playing a synergy game. I want to be able to get somewhere. Like, assuming that I have a synergy made, I want to get to the point where I've at least created a synergy. And if it's also not a synergy roguelike, then what the fuck is Balatro? It's F tier. And I can go into more detail. I have a lot of stuff into it. It is a deck building roguelike made by someone who's never played a deck building roguelike, which means it's not a deck building roguelike. And it's also just not a very user-friendly roguelike because it doesn't have systems in place to overcome RNG. And the argument, oh, there isn't an unwinnable seed, is not good. I was in there. I was in the arguments and stuff. And the thing is, anyone arguing the fact that there isn't an unwinnable seed, sure, no unwinnable seeds, that's fine. But that's not what the argument that my side was making. My side was making is that there are so many seeds in the game where you have to have prior knowledge of every single event in the entire run leading up. Every single choice, every single card, every single joker that is available in a future shop to make decisions in order to win. And that's just bad. I know it's people are like, oh, it's going to be a skill issue because you can do gold stake streaks and stuff. And yes, you can do a highest level streak on all of these games when you're good enough at the game. But the game is just so punishing for no reason. And I play, look at these games that I've played and I've done so much into. None of the Balatro is not as, I wouldn't say Balatro is as difficult as Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is so much more difficult than Balatro. However, it's actually rewarding. So, yeah. Stacklands. Stacklands is not a roguelike. Crypt of the Necrodancer. I don't have much experience playing Crypt of the Necrodancer. I have about 4 hours. I've played a lot of the Cadence of Hyrule. And I think Crypt of the Necrodancer is very fun. I was very bad at it when I first played it, but I've gotten better at it. I don't think it's like a really good roguelike because it doesn't have like very memorable build styles, but I also didn't really get very far into it. And it goes somewhere in here. Children of Morsha, very fun. There's a few issues in it. The characters are woefully unbalanced. I don't really remember their names at this point, but the mage girl is the most broken character I've ever seen. And and that's just like the case. And the archer is another very powerful character. And you do a run with both of those, and you can get way further, and then you play other characters, and suddenly, yeah, you can't do much. Now, of course, every character is usable. However, yes, one of the mage girl is the most usable character, and the story around the game is also very fun and interesting. It's not as well executed as Hades, which is why it's more than a tier below. For the King, it is not a roguelike. One Step from Eden. One Step from Eden is a very, very good combination of deck builder and action roguelike. It is a low S tier. I love the characters, how they work. I love the different synergies you can build. I love the Mega Man Battle Network style battles, even though I've never played Mega Man Battle Network. I've really wanted to, even own the games, but I haven't actually gotten around to playing them. And I also really like the fact that of the different routes. Like when you're worse at the game, you need more healing, which means you'll be sparing people, because when you spare someone, they heal you and then they give you rewards. And then you'll be going down to the pacifist route, which is probably the easiest route in the game. But then when you get slightly better, you start killing more of them. You get to the neutral route, which is very, very fun, which has probably the most fun final boss. And then you can go to the genocide route when you're really good at the game. And every route plays differently. And even when you're really good at the game, sometimes you should still go back and do pacifist route. And sometimes you even lose pacifist route runs. Like, I mean, once you're really good at the game, you're not going to lose much. The Ascension system is something that I've never touched in this game because I don't feel like it's a good addition to the game. It's probably pretty fun, but there's like no achievements and it feels tacked on. So I don't really interact with it, but it's good. Enter the Gungeon, D tier. The bosses, I don't feel like the bosses and the enemy and the world design is very well done. Like, I like the individual mechanics, I just don't think it's well executed, and the guns are really funny. It just feels like a roguelike that is more determined about being funny than it is about being a well-balanced experience. I have 21 hours into it. I enjoyed my time. I just don't think that it's really worth it. Maybe I'm just not the target of the game. Backpack Hero. I'm almost considering saying it's not a roguelike because the primary mode of the game, the story mode, is not a roguelike. However, there is the roguelike mode, and Backpack Hero. It is fun. There are fun things. I think the game very much doesn't work on a fundamental level. It's good. It's a lot of good ideas with somewhat good executions. The different characters I don't think work though, and a lot of the time, you just don't. You either don't get what you need to win, or you do get what you need to win, and it's so absolutely broken that nothing can ever come close to doing any damage to you. Backpack Hero is like one of the worst roguelikes of being you're either absolutely destroying everything or you're getting absolutely destroyed, which is another issue that I have with Balatro even. I just don't feel like that's a really well-made game design. Rogue Legacy is another F tier. It's slightly better than Balatro because at least it has first playthrough that's good, but Rogue Legacy isn't very fun. It's another roguelike that tries to be more funny than well made. I don't like a lot of the systems in Rogue Legacy. Maybe Rogue Legacy 2 is better, and Rogue Legacy is the one you can point at for being the one to cause the roguelite revolution, where every game decides that it needs to have this system where you get meta progression, which takes away from the core aspects of what a roguelike is. And it is a game that that expects you to by the end of the game have a very high level of meta progression, which means that if you don't interact with meta progression, you're going to have a bad time. It's just not a very good system, and I don't like it. Holo Cure is slightly better than Vampire Survivors, but they're almost the same. Hollow Cure has better synergy, better characters, but they're both turn your brain off games. Magicraft. Magicraft is D tier. It's a very creative game, and I really like playing it. However, I feel like the difficulty levels can get kind of toxic. If I remember correctly, it's a new game plus system, which is just an ascension system. But tacking on the extra difficulty increases to also forcing you to go through even more levels in a row to get to the final boss. So you have to beat every previous final boss to get to the new final boss is a lot. And the game very much requires you to just have to meet DPS thresholds, which I don't think any, like, having a roguelike, an action roguelike that requires you to meet DPS thresholds that are kind of actually very difficult to meet, is it just kind of bad in my opinion? Like the worst part of an action roguelike is hitting a DPS wall, because I feel like you should be allowed to outskill the enemies, or at least scale really nicely. Just by existing, you should be able to collect things that help you scale. Cult of the Lamb is a bad roguelike tacked on to a pretty decent colony sim that requires you to interact with the bad roguelike, and its gameplay loop isn't very good. I don't much like Cult of the Lamb, but it's probably just me. I think the roguelike aspect of the game is very lackluster. Luck Be a Landlord. Luck Be a Landlord is a very, very good roguelike. And this is something that needs to be studied, okay? Why Luck Be a Landlord, a game that why Luck Be a Landlord and Balatro and Mayhem, actually all three of those games, why all three of those games work very differently, all have fundamentally the same amount of luck required, but Balatro just fails completely based on the other two. Luck Be a Landlord is literally a slot machine, and it's more it has more um player what's the word agency. It has more player agency than Balatro, despite being a slot machine. And player agency is one of the core tenets of good roguelike game design. You want to have give your players agency so that they can conquer odds despite bad RNG. And bad RNG should never be the loss of any roguelikes run. Next up, we have Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers is a very well-built roguelike that has a lot of very funny cards and interactions, and it's very fun to play. It has a good difficulty system, despite being a very fast-paced ascension system with the doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, but I think the levels are very good. I haven't really tested many of them. There are two issues. The decks are woefully unbalanced, and there is a winning strategy that wins you the game every single time. You either go for making your deck always blackjack, or you go for making your opponent's deck always bust. And it's so easy to just always make your opponent's deck bust that it's not even funny. Just King is a very similar game to SNKRX with the auto battling system and style. I think Just King is slightly worse than SNKRX, but it actually got developed to a complete state, so it is better. Wild Frost. Wild Frost is a very good deck building roguelike. There's some issues in it. I don't find any of the factions very compelling. I find the mechanics compelling. I don't find the factions as a whole compelling. They feel kind of samey. I do have a favorite faction, and Wild Frost is... People say Wild Frost is very punishing, but it's kind of not. In fact, I found it almost easy. It's not easy. It is difficult, but it's almost easy. Probably the most punishing thing about Wild Cross is also a very unique mechanic that is giving it a lot of points here, is that the final boss is your previous deck from the last successful run you do, which is such an interesting mechanic that I really, really like, and it's very fun. It is very fun. Haste. Haste is a very fun roguelike. It is a first-person platforming roguelike. I am a terrible at platformers. I think I like Haste. I'm bad at the game, but I like it. It doesn't really have enough variety in the gameplay for my tastes, but it is pretty good nonetheless. I'm gonna put it in the middle of B tier here. Parents' Blessing is almost a roguelike, but it doesn't follow a lot of the roguelike. So the thing is, all of these games here are not a roguelike, kind of have roguelike mechanics. I can see why people are confused. And I see if someone thinks that some of these are roguelikes, then that's good. But the issue with these is that they like playing the game. Playing a run of each of these games takes multiple hours. More than, like, sure, FTL can take multiple hours, but each of these takes 4 to 5 hours, like probably 4 to 5 hours, and you get a lot of control in what you do. There aren't any random upgrades. There aren't really any random relics. Like, there's a few in each of these games that you can get, but most of the time you have very good control over what you get, and they're almost more similar to a game like Civilization, which I'd be hard pressed to find anyone saying that Civilization is a roguelike. Tower Escape. Tower Escape is a fun roguelike. It is a reverse tower defense game, which means that you play as the monsters trying to get past the towers. I think that the gameplay is a little wonky. I feel like the concept's good and the execution is almost as good as you can get it, but there's a little bit of issues. If I remember correctly, there are factions in this game. I haven't played it that much, but the factions aren't very different from each other. So, top of D tier for a cool mechanic, not very replayable in my opinion, but definitely interesting, and I feel like someone could build off of this and make a really good game. In fact, I should probably clarify. So S tier games are classics, undefeatable champions. A tier games are very, very, very good that you'll never go wrong in picking up and playing. Games I'm always wanting to go back to. B tier games are very well designed in what they're doing, and they succeed in what makes a roguelike. C tier games are very well designed, are either very well designed, are usually very well designed. However, there is that little issue that makes the game not as good as it could be, or it's just not the core concept of what a roguelike game could be. D tier games have good ideas and mechanics that fall flat, and I feel like someone could take them and make them better. And F tier games are games that kind of destroy the concept of a roguelike and make me question my life decisions every time that I play them. Neon Garden. It's very good. I hopefully I'll get some updates, because right now it is kind of stale. But with some updates, it could definitely hit like B tier. It's a very fun game with a lot of interesting play styles and other such stuff, but until it gets updated with more content, I don't think it's worthy of entering B tier. I could even see this game entering A tier. Circadian Dice. Now, it says I only have 90 minutes. That's not true, because I played this game probably about 10 hours when it was in early access on HIO. It is a very fun game that falls flat due to difficulty increases being a bit weird. It's not quite D tier. It's slow C tier. It is very fun. I just don't think it's exactly what I hoped it would be. But I do like the characters, and I do like the mechanics, and I do like everything about it, and it's not a game that fails and someone else could do it better, but it is a game that could become so much better. Rogue Book. I have played one round of Rogue Book. I have played one complete one complete run of Rogue Book that I lost at like World 4 or 5 or something. Maybe I did 2 runs. I think it's interesting. I just think it takes too long of a time. Like it takes too long and doesn't actually address what makes a deck builder good. If I remember correctly, there's you get to pick 2 characters, and the characters have different functions or something. I almost barely remember playing it. It had some cool mechanics. I just don't think I like it. Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. Clone Drone in the Danger Zone is a very well done, true roguelike game. It doesn't have any real randomness in how where you upgrade, but it has a lot of randomness in what enemies you'll be fighting, and it's especially fun with the Twitch mode. I don't have enough people to. I don't have anyone watching to play the Twitch mode, but I have but I have been in other people's streams and participated in sending things. It's good. It's just good. Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. A tier. Low A tier. Magic Survival. The original game that inspired Vampire Survivors, and this one is actually better than any other Survivors like I've played, including Vampire Survivors. There are definitely some issues in the game, like how scaling works and other such things, but it is good. I swear it is good. The magic system and how you get to change your magics and then fuse them together is a lot more compelling than what Vampire Survivors offers, and passive magics are good and the relics are good. And synergies and all that stuff. There's not a whole lot of synergies. It's more like actually just increasing and stacking your stats up, which is very fun. 20 minutes until dawn. I don't think 20 minutes until dawn is very good. I think that it's like I think that it's kind of lackluster. Yeah. And finally, Rogue Adventure. This is another game not on Steam. Magic Survival isn't on Steam. Rogue Adventure not on Steam. I play them on Google Play Store on my phone. This is a roguelike deck building game. It's actually interesting. So every character class has its own core set of mechanics and original cards and a unique relic. Okay. However, every card you pick up and add to your deck and every relic that you get along the game are all generic across all your characters. So none of them actually specifically synergize with your character's mechanics. And so you have to be figuring out how to benefit the most from your character's mechanics while using the same set of cards. And I think that's very interesting. And it's definitely a very fun experience. Whoa, 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 whoa. This was D tier, right? No. This is, yeah, this is D tier. Rogue Adventure is a very, 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 very good game, especially for a mobile game. Once you pay for the ad block, like for ad removal and whatever, it's only like what, $5. It's very well put together. Lowest B tier I could give it, because there is a clear strategy that does win overall, and it's kind of fun. Like you can, and like there's actually plenty of strategies that win overall, but the game very much likes free cards. Free cards are some of the best cards. Any card that gives you more energy to do things is just kind of broken in this game. And the hell system, or the, what I think it's, yeah, diving into deeper levels of hell, I think is what the Ascension system is called, is pretty fun. But yeah, that is it. That is every roguelike that I have put at least an hour into. Roguelikes that I've tried and have immediately dropped include Nubby's Number Factory, which I just don't understand and I don't like, and I don't get it. And probably, oh yeah, and Going Under, which I don't understand, don't like, and don't get. And there's plenty of roguelikes that I technically could play, but I haven't yet. So I might update this. Anyway, this has been Jackson Cobalt. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and as always, stay awesome. Goodbye, guys.